Thank you for joining us this evening. And before we start with the pledge, I just want to remind everybody about our Zoom meeting guidelines, which I believe all of you have received. But if you are being called on for roll call, then I would ask that you'd state your name and give the location where you are as a trustee. And then when we go to make motions, please state your name as the maker of the motion, and the clerk will call and do a roll call vote. And if you'd like to speak during public comment, I need you to do a little hand wave, get my attention so that I can call on you, because I won't know otherwise. Anyhow, I think those are our guidelines, and our meeting's called to order. If you guys would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes. Mrs. Vert?
Yes, present, Flint Township.
Mrs. Pfaff-Dahl?
Present, Flint Township.
Carol, can we ask you to, when you speak, will you turn your microphone up a little bit louder, please? Thank you. Sorry, Kathy.
Mrs. Anderson?
Present, Flint Township.
Ms. Miller?
Here in Grambling Township.
Mrs. Funk, yes, Flint Township. Mr. Klee?
Present, Flint Township.
Ms. Campbell?
Present, Flint Township.
We're all here.
Great, thank you. So are there any additions or deletions to this evening's agenda? I'd like to do one thing. We have a guest who will be speaking tonight, and unfortunately, the action item is at the bottom of the page, the last one. So I'm asking if nobody would mind if we were to move action item F up before our reports so that we could take care of that action item and dismiss the Genesee County Treasurer. Is that okay with everybody? Any objections to that?
Yes,
Yes, you got an objection?
no objection.
Oh, no objection. All righty, so we're gonna do that. Deb, I'm trying to be mindful of your time, and we'll just take as little of it as possible. So that's the change on our agenda tonight. Are there any corrections to the minutes of the January 4th, 2021 board meeting? No corrections? Madam Clerk, roll call please on approving the minutes of the January 4th board meeting.
Mrs. Vert?
Yes,
Mrs. Pfaff-Dahl?
You're muted.
Mrs. Pfaff-Dahl?
She's saying yes. I don't know. You can't hear her.
We heard her.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mrs. Anderson?
Yes,
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Funk, yes. Mr. Klee?
Yes,
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Thank you. We'll move on to number 8 is public comment. If anyone would like to address the board, now's your time to do it. If you could raise your hand. Yes, Mr. Seward.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to take a moment and thank our clerk, Kathy Funk, as well as our Economic Development Director, Mrs. Tracy Tucker, for the excellent job they do in communicating meetings and making myself and my wife and the public aware of what's going on. I know it's a team effort, but it seems like I get communication from them on a regular basis, and they're very timely, professional, and I wanted to acknowledge them and say how much we appreciate it. Next, I want to talk a little bit about something that is on your agenda again this evening. It was on your agenda last meeting, and I don't know all the particulars of what goes on within the administration and the running of the township offices. But as my wife and I were very active in this community, we appreciate this community, and we've noticed a lot of things. I don't know what the situation was, but I am led to believe that Ms. Forrest left her assignment at one time, and then she returned on a contract basis. And now it's been approached a couple times now to rehire her back on a regular basis. I don't know exactly what happened. I think that's up to all of you to ascertain. Hopefully whatever caused her to leave and come back has been rectified. But when you talk about personnel in a public meeting, I sometimes wonder if it might not be best served if you went into a closed session. Even if you did it this evening, have people like myself and people that aren't part of the board actually excuse themselves, let the meeting coordinator facilitate to make sure it is a closed meeting. But I do want to say that any experience my wife and I have ever had with Ms. Forrest, whether it be when she's been recording at one of your meetings, when it has been when we come into the offices in that area, or when she's been outside in the heat directing traffic and talking to people at the recycling or the shredding days. Anytime my wife and I have been with this individual, we've been impressed. She has been friendly, she has been polite, and she has been professional. So I just wanted to state that based on our observations. But whatever you do, if you could do it in a fashion that is very professional and maybe in a closed session, I think it would be a good idea. And in closing, I want to say, as usual, we appreciate each and every one of you, everything you do for this community.
Thank you.
Especially during these difficult times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seward. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak during public comment? One last time. There's a few people on by phone, and I'm not getting any indication that anyone else would like to speak. So if there's no one else who'd like to speak during public comment, we will move on. And I'm gonna say welcome to Deb Cherry. We have the Genesee County Treasurer with us this evening, and Deb's gonna speak to you. Oh, did I move the wrong one up?
Hey, as you
No.
state,
I did. I stated the wrong one, right? It's action item C that's going to go to the top. I was thinking the last one. It's not, but neither here nor there. Thanks for joining us this evening, Treasurer Cherry.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Miller. It's great to be here and to see everybody, even if it's by Zoom. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's called the Pay As You Stay program. And Ms. Anderson, the treasurer, has been talking to Carla Vanderpfeiffer in my office about the program. So I'm going to do a real quick description as much as I can. It's new to me too, so we're all learning about this as we go. But in March of 2020, the legislature passed and the governor signed a bill which is called Pay As You Stay. Originally, it was developed for the city of Detroit, but they added the ability of all local governments in Michigan to participate if they choose to. What it does is it allows us, if you agree and if you pass a resolution saying you want to be a part of it, to work with your residents who have delinquent taxes and who also you've given a poverty exemption to. What it allows us to lower their taxes 10% and possibly lower some of their fees or stop some of their fees while they're in the program. Now they have to make sure that they make payments, and we set up a payment plan with them, and they have to continue to make those payments. And I know that that's often hard for people who are in poverty to do, but we would try our best to work with them as much as possible. We cannot do the program, however, unless you agree to do it, since they are people that you have to approve for the poverty exemption, which the law changed just a little while ago about how that program operates too. I think, I'm trying to remember how much time they have to pay. I want to say 36 months, if that's what they have to get their back taxes paid, because that's what we're talking about, is the back taxes. And if they can do that, again, we're lowering the property taxes 10%. It shouldn't cost, there is a potential cost to the township. If we have bonds out, for example, because we often, as you know, every year we issue bonds to pay you up front for the taxes that you haven't been able to collect, and that which we are going to collect. And so if we have to pay back a bond, there may be a small cost to you in terms of the taxes, that the 10% that person's not paying. We might have to do some chargeback, but I wouldn't expect it to be very high at all. You have 21, we sent out a letter to you. I think the formal letter was sent Friday. So I don't know if you've gotten it yet. But you have 21 days from that date to pass the resolution as a township board. Right now, the city of Flint has approved this, and they're going to participate, and Vienna Township has said that they want to participate. And we're talking to you, Burton, Grand Blanc, probably. We haven't talked to Grand Blanc yet, but we will. We'll be talking to Mount Morris, kind of the surrounding local units around the city of Flint. Vienna Township, we did it because they contacted us and wanted to participate. And then we'll do that final round of local units out in the outer ring of the county. I'd like to be able to answer any questions that you have about the program, and I'll try and answer them and do my best anyway. Go ahead.
Deb, we know what the law allows us to spend tax dollars on. So when you say that there might be a small fee, that's part of the law, and there's no issues with us participating with that, right? Okay.
No, it's just part of the chargeback that we do every year with you, with each local unit.
Right, but if there's an issue because part of the bond, if there's a fee, that will be absorbed by the township and not the parcel owner, correct?
Right. Well, yeah, right. For the bond, right.
Okay, I was just curious about that.
Yeah.
So there was another program. They had the Step Forward program that the county ran, and all the funding for that has been all gone. And so this is the new program that's going to replace that. I know we've had one or two calls of individuals that are currently on that would meet that criteria and that are really hoping to be able to stay in their homes. And so that's why we really wanted to get on the agenda, have Deb Cherry to come in and talk about the program, get all the questions answered so that we would be able to get an answer as to whether or not we want to opt in. I think it's a great program. We don't want our residents to lose their homes.
Right.
So I think we'll take.
We also, oh, I'm sorry. I also
fine.
wanted to say, we also every year we'll work with anybody who contacts us who's needing help. This is just one more tool to have in our toolbox to help people. And when like oftentimes I will extend a foreclosure because people, I don't want to have people kicked out of their house either or lose their home. But it doesn't do anything to lower the penalties or the interest. you, the township, would not be responsible for the penalties and interest that are attached to the property taxes. The only financial responsibility you might have is for that amount of tax that we didn't collect.
Okay. Any further questions for Treasurer Cherry? No? So I'm going to assume Treasurer Anderson's going to make a motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the Charter Township of Flint would opt in to participate in the pay-as-you-stay pays program.
Is there a second to the motion?
Bert Sports.
Lisa and Barb. Any further discussion? None. So Madam Clerk, roll call please on the motion to opt in to the resolution for pay-as-you-stay.
Mrs. Funk, yes. Mr. Klee,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Vert,
Yes.
Mrs. Fafdal, Mrs. Fafdal's muted.
Just trying.
But we still can't hear her even though she's unmuting.
She's a yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. And
Thank
thank you
you.
very much for joining us tonight. It's good to see you, Treasurer
Good to
Cherry.
see you too. It's good
Thank
to see you
you.
too, Karen.
Bye-bye.
If I could just ask that you send a copy of that resolution to us in the letter, it will tell you who to send it to and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. So now we'll move on to reports. And I don't have a big report. I just wanted to mention, I sent information to all the trustees today. And I don't want to go into details or name amounts, but for many years, we were trying to receive a refund from Consumers Energy for the lights that were out. I mean, there was a lot of hours put into doing what I think their work, but anyhow, our street lights are unmetered and it's very difficult process to identify how much of the refund there should have been, but we did receive a refund and it was gratefully appreciated. And so I just wanted to mention that there was a resident who was very, very concerned. And I think even to this day still looks to see if lights are out, and that's really appreciated, but we did receive the refund that we were looking for. That's one thing I wanted to mention. And then the second thing I wanted to say is we recently approved the increase in the deposit amount for the landlord affidavits. And at the time, I thought that we did not have any commercial affidavits, but I stand corrected and I'm getting back with you. We have one. We have over 13,000 water accounts and water sewer accounts. And I'm not sure, I should have asked, but I didn't get that answer, how many residential landlord affidavits, but we only have one commercial landlord affidavit. I didn't have the answer the day I was asked, so I wanted to get back with you and let you know that answer. That's all I have in my report this evening that I can think of. Madam Clerk, do you have a report?
Yes, I do. Mine's a little bit lengthy, so I'll take up what time you didn't
Sure.
use. I just wanted to give, because there was a lot of talk last year about overtime in the elections department. And now that the final numbers came in, some of the final numbers just arrived this afternoon as far as overtime. And because I'm employed by the voters of Flint Township, I want them to know how their dollars were used last year for elections. Overtime dollars spent in elections for 2020 was $24,713. That was 61.7% of the budget. So that means 38.3% was not spent. And part of this was, I don't have the figure, but part of it was reimbursed by the two major political parties for the March primary. And And that figure was also overtime for police that was paid out of elections in light of the contentiousness of the November election, plus the ban on open carry. So breaking that down, between 2008 election, the election specialist who had Angie Tygeson spot worked 556.25 hours of overtime in 2008. And the administrative assistant worked 505.5 hours. We can't compare administrative assistants because we haven't had one since right after the March primary. But in 2020, the election specialist, Angie Tygeson, worked 352.76 hours of overtime. And that was without an administrative assistant and without well, it was basically as a temporary worker. We did have Jackie in as a temporary worker, but in 2008, there were 2 full-time members plus a temporary worker. So to break that down, 2008, there were approximately 5,500 absentee ballots for the November election. We issued and had 10,480 ballots returned. Actually, 10,880 were issued. We also had the pandemic, and we never at any point called in the full clerical union to work. And in 2008, there was no reason absentee voting, and voters were required to be registered 30 days prior to an election. Now that Proposal 18.3 was passed in 2018, voters can register on the day of the election, and there is no reason absentee voting, and our permanent AV list has tripled in size since no reason AV went into effect. So I just want to say that it all comes down to teamwork. If time is not being spent working efficiently, then yes, the number of overtime hours is higher. It's a testament to Deputy Angie Tygeson and to Jackie Forrest. I always say they're like a well-oiled machine. They even go beyond that. They're like a Lamborghini in comparison to a Ford Pinto, the way that those two work together. And I just want to thank them for their efforts during 2020. And that's all I have for my report.
Got a real quick question.
Sure.
Madam Clerk, you went back to 2008. What happened in 2016 as far as overtime? In 2012?
2008,
No,
we
16.
had.
I wanted 16. Why did you skip 2016 with giving us comparisons? And then
Because we did.
2012 is-
Because 2008 was the closest in number to the absentee ballots that we had.
Can you bring us 2016 numbers as far as overtime, if you're going to make a report?
I can give you those when I get to my action item on the agenda because I have them.
Kathy?
But also in 2016, it's hard to compare because at the time of the November election, there were actually 4 full-time people working in the department because there was myself, there was Jackie Forrest training alongside me, there was Lori Donovan, election specialist, and there was Angie Tygeson training alongside Lori. So for 2016, we had 4 full-time people. So it's not going to be as easy to compare. But I will have those numbers by the end of when it gets to my agenda item.
Kathy, you sent out information on the election, and I remember reading it. Did that give the amount of people who voted both absentee and walk-in in that email?
The turnout, you have to look at the election day turnout. The way that the reports are now, they're a little bit different. But it combines kind of the numbers together, so it's hard to break it down. If you want,
Do you have an idea of how many people, and I don't expect it now, but do you have an idea of how many people voted in person?
Not off the top of my head. We just went through all the ballots because we had the risk limiting audit. I can tell you there was not 10,480 people that showed up because we had a 95% return rate on our absentee ballots. And that's out of basically 23,000 voters.
I was just curious, kind of like flip-flopped. More people voted by absentee ballot than I knew that, but I was just wondering if you knew the number.
It did mainly that was in due part to the pandemic, I think. And then in the other thing that played into it was the Secretary of State sending out the mass mailing in May of applications to every registered voter.
Alrighty, any other questions? No? Is that your report, Madam Clerk?
Yes, it is.
We'll move on to Madam Treasurer.
So I guess it's the time I'll give the treasurer's investment report, which is included in the packet. It's action item 9A. You should have the December 31st, 2020 investment report before you. I've highlighted any changes in yellow. Nothing significant has changed. So I would just ask that the report be submitted into the records for review by the auditors.
Alrighty. Anything else?
No,
Alrighty,
that's
we'll move on
the
to
report.
trustees. Are there any trustee reports this evening? No? Okay, we'll move on to staff reports. Chief Salter, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I'll do both the police and the fire department. Since January 4th, your police department responded to over 1,500 calls, which is about a 75 call per day average, which is down, which is always good. It's down about 10 calls per day since our last board meeting, which is about normal for this time of year though too. Last week, I think some of you guys might have saw us in the news and social media. We were missing, they had a 12-year-old that was missing. We teamed up with the Genesee County Sheriff's Office, or GHOST team, and we located the 12-year-old within 12 hours. So I think it was great teamwork by both agencies involved. Over last weekend, there was a walkaway from the landings of Genesee Valley. We had a 63-year-old female who walked away and last seen at 10 o'clock at night. She was found a few miles away at approximately 5:30 in the morning. She was suffering from hypothermia, and we sent her to the hospital for further checks. On a good note, one of our officers that was deployed overseas with his National Guardian is now stateside, and he's supposed to return next month and start working the road. And also, probably as Trustee Clee can say, Carmen has students back in school today. And so we had a school resource officer, Officer Sean Poole. It's his first day in school too. So it's good for him to be in the school. And I look forward to that. I know he's been looking forward to it and bugging me a lot about it. So I'm sure he's really happy, and so is the school. I go to the fire department. Since January 4th, you guys, the fire department has responded to over 31 calls. Included in that was 2 different structure fires, one on Bertha Avenue, then another and where we assisted Swartz Creek with a structure fire. Also, they were sent to multiple different things for accidents, injury accidents, removing a patient from their home, and a gas leak, where they assisted both the police department and the EMS. Then some good news on the fire side. The new fire engine that we ordered over a year ago is scheduled to be completed middle of next month. So that's always good news. When that gets set up, we get that engine going. We'll make sure all the trustees have an open house so they can come see it. And I do not have any items for the agenda, and that concludes my report.
Great. Thank you very much. Mrs. Tucker, do you have a report this evening?
Just a couple of things. I have 2 items on the agenda, and there are people from Communities First that are on the Zoom call. So if you have any questions, they will be able to answer. And just wanted to remind everybody that we have started our radio show. We're working, it's called Discover Flint Township. It airs every Sunday on 103.9 The Fox from 7:30 a.m. to 8. And if you miss it there, you can catch it on our YouTube channel, which is Discover Flint Township. And if you have any questions that you would like answered on the show, you can email discoverflinttownship@gmail.com, and we'll try to answer your questions. This is a venture, a joint venture between the DDA, the Flint Township DDA, Bristol Road CIA, Beachy Road CIA, in partnership with HAP, Financial Plus Credit Union, and Shea Automotive Group. And it's been pretty exciting. It's been a lot of fun to work with the people from HAP and Financial Plus and Shea. And then we are going to start our business spotlights during those shows starting February 7th. So that's what we have. And like I said, I have 2 items on the agenda. And I'll talk about those when we get to them.
Great. Thank you. We'll move on to committee reports, and I have John Whiteside, who's going to give a report for the road advisory, because as you see, action item E is the recommendation from the road advisory. Go ahead, John.
You can hear me, Karen?
Yes.
All right. Well, good evening, Supervisor Miller and Township Board and residents. Our road advisory committee met a week ago Monday, I guess last Monday, and on January 11th by a Zoom meeting. And our plan was to finalize the township road plan for the 2021 construction year. Attending the meeting was 5 of our committee members. Also present was Alex Patsy from Genesee County Road Commission and Mike Pfeiffer from Craft Engineering. And we did have 1 resident that came in on Zoom. Included our discussion was several roads that has been discussed at previous meetings. But with the estimates from Mike Pfeiffer from Craft Engineering, we were able to choose the selection of roads that we want to have done this year as our recommendation. Roads that have been discussed for this year's plan included the following considerations. Dorella Avenue and Bailey were left over from last year and was actually approved last year by the Township Board. We added several roads in our discussion. North Utley Road from Corunna to Hogarth, which was really a 2019 carryover. Lavelle Road from Flushing to Pasadena, and Mackin Road from City of Flint to Lavelle were kind of brought to us by the County Road Commission. Graham Road from Court to Corunna, which is the one section of Graham that was not done over the years, and this was discussed actually a couple years ago. Staunton Drive and some other roads in that neighborhood have been brought to our attention. Hillside Drive, which is Beecher, off of Beecher Road to the end of it. West Terrace from Hillside to Hillside, it's actually a loop up in there. And then the River Valley Drive, River Birch intersection. There's some issues there and a cross tube repair. Also previously discussed at last year and maybe the year before was the first 400 feet of Roslyn Avenue, which is off of Corunna Road. And in past years, the road commissions came to us about doing sections of gravel roads that run off of Corunna. I guess it maintains the road surface better where it meets the pavement. And we had talked about doing that, but the estimates came in at $37,000, which was really considerably higher than we've had to pay in the past. So the committee thought those dollars would be better spent somewhere else in the township. So we kind of scrapped that plan for now, at least that section. So the challenge of the committee is to use the township's road millage money and the 50-50 money from the Genesee County Road Commission, along with our suggestions for CDBG money funds, and come up with a road plan. So we formulate a road plan to maximize the use of all these funds for the 2021 road projects. And it's pretty involved because you got to match 50-50 money. We have to take road millage money. We have to take, block grant money and make all the numbers work so we come within the budget. So a motion was made by John Lawrence and seconded by Jim Rouse. And the motion was made to do the following roads, maximizing the use of available dollars as follows and discussed. It was the North Utley Road, Graham Road, Bailey Street, Dorellen, Hillside Drive, River Birch and River Valley intersection than the West Terrace. And that motion did pass unanimously. So we as an advisory committee passed this plan, and we're going to move it on to the township board for approval. Hopefully tonight you guys will approve that. And we think that's the best use to the township's road millage money. And like I said, the 50-50 money and the block grant money. And that is action item E, I believe, on your agenda. And Mike Pfeiffer, I believe, is also available to answer any real specific questions on that project. Another note I took to the road advisory is I also attend the Genesee Metro Alliance as the Flint Township's representative. There's a project in our township that they're planning on doing this summer, and it doesn't cost the township anything, but it's resurfacing Mill Road from Beecher Road to Flushing Road. And that's paid through 2021 urban road projects. And I believe that pretty much covers what I wanted to talk about.
Thank you very much, John. Mike Piper's with us, but I think I'm gonna have him talk when we get down to the action item. If there's any questions, he said he'd be available to answer. So we move on from reports, we move to action. Well, I crossed it off already. Number 10, the treasurer, Madam Treasurer.
You didn't do all the committees.
Oh,
Carol
so,
mentioned
Carol,
that.
do you have a report? I apologize. I see you waving there. I'm
No,
sorry.
That's fine. Can you hear me now?
Can you turn it up a little?
Well, I tried. Let me see.
No, it's on mute.
Try to speak louder.
There, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, there were several items on the agenda for our last meeting. They all were approved. The first one we had was the Capitol Coney Island, and they're adding a drive-through window. Then we had Central Church of the Nazarene, Bristol Road. They're adding additional parking for expanding like 17 parking spaces. And then one on Heatherwood Road, it's going to be an autistic adult home. And then we had one on Flushing Road, and it's for subsidized housing project, and it's for mixed use property. And like Tracy said, we do have some representatives on with us if anybody had questions on that one.
Great. Sorry about that, Carol. Thank you.
That's fine.
One more.
Go ahead.
The ZBA. In
Go
regards to the
ahead.
ZBA, Tracy, you mentioned that the gentlemen are here. Do you want to discuss the ZBA, or do you want me to talk about the approvals on the last two?
No, go ahead.
All right, thank you. We have the group had came before us twice in regards to the addition of a brand new build on Flushing Road, just east of Ballinger, and it will be in the old medical arts complex. And they were at a meeting earlier in the month. We offered some suggestions, discussed some options. They went back and to their designer and their architects, and they came back to us having dropped one of the variance requests after reconfiguring some items, and we passed their approval for them to move on to the Planning Commission, which I think Tracy will be discussing here this evening on that commission there. And secondly, we had a gentleman who came before us asking to build a pole barn on his property in order to, as he put it very graciously and respectfully, and Mr. Powell as well, to put away items that are currently out visible and not an eyesore, it's in an industrial area, but he asked for the abilities to build that pole barn to be able to put the units, the items on his site underneath and in cover. And we approved the variances on both of those provisions. So at that point, it moved on from the his Elms Road piece, and it moves on to get his permits and go forward from there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate those reports coming from the those committees, commissions. Thank you very much. It's very helpful. Go ahead.
Well, one more. Sorry, I flipped my page. And you guys will all be happy about this to some degree. The Signorama came before us also. That one I was on my back page. Sorry about that. Juicy Seafood and Wings is looking to go in on next to Burlington, next to Foreman Mills, and had asked for an increase in signage, being that their setback from Miller Road is so far off the road, and it would be in the old, I'm going to date myself, I think it was Old Country Buffet originally, wasn't it, Tracy?
Yes.
So they are asking to increase the signage a little bit across the fascia there to be able to be visible from the Miller Road drive-by. And then we passed that for them to go ahead and move forward to look into what is necessary. Correct, Trace?
That's correct. You got it all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we'll move on to number 10, Madam Treasurer.
Yes, you should have received copies of the bills in your emails. I'd like to make a motion that we pay bills in the amount of $3,083.31. In addition, there were invoices and disbursements that were paid in the amounts of $160,564.11 on January 7th and $3,778,872.47 on January 13th, as authorized by the board's
Purchasing policy.
So
Thank you very much.
Okay.
No,
So motion is in order to pay the bills in the amount of $3,083.31.
Is there a second to the treasurer's motion?
All supports.
Thank you. Any questions for Madam Treasurer? No, hearing none. Madam Clerk, roll call to pay the bills in the amount of $3,083.31.
Mrs. Pfaff-Dahl,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Funk, yes, Mr. Klee,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Vert,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Number 11, Madam Clerk, do we have any
Uh,
correspondence or informational items?
Not for this evening.
We move on to new business. Action item A, Mrs. Tucker.
This was a request this is the first reading for the ordinance. And the request is to move from 7 members from 9 members to 7 on the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on it, and nobody from the public, I believe, commented. However, the Planning Commission did have some comments. I can forward you those minutes for the second reading, if you'd like.
Thank you. All righty. We will move on to action item B. This is for you also, Mrs. Tucker.
So this is the ordinance to create or a resolution to create an ad valorem tax exemption. We had a first reading on this in December. This is actually the second reading. And this was sent to the attorney. He made a couple of minor adjustments to it. It includes a 4% rate for the taxing. They'd be paid on or before March 1st of the following year. And it would only be in effect as long as the mortgage loan remains outstanding and unpaid, or the housing project, or as long as the housing project remains subject to income and rent restrictions under the LIHTC program, which is a MSHDA program that they are doing this under. It's actually the low income housing tax credit program. And Mr. Wilson, who is the CEO of Communities First, I believe is on the line or on Zoom. And Mr. Wright is also on, who works for Communities First as well. So if you have further questions, they would be able to answer those.
My quick question to you, Tracy, is Peter's reviewed this.
Yeah. Actually, Michael Gildner did.
Mike, okay, thank you for that.
Yep, no problem.
Any concerns? He's good with it?
Yeah, he was fine with it. I forwarded those changes that he made. What's in your packet has the lined out areas that he changed, along with the in red is what he added.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Wright or Mr. Wilson? Anybody? No? So a motion would be in order to proceed with the, oh no, it's just a final reading, right?
It's
Are we
final
voting on it
reading,
tonight?
So you would have to vote to adopt it.
Yeah. So we need a motion to do that.
Clerk Funk moves that we adopt the resolution.
Is there a
for-
second to the, oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Go ahead.
Clee
Is there a
would
second to the
that.
motion adopting the resolution?
Clee would second the adoption of the resolution put forth by Tracy Tucker and offered by Clerk Funk.
Any further discussion? Any questions? This is too easy. All righty, Madam Clerk, roll call please on the motion to approve the resolution for the payment in lieu of taxes ordinance.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Funk, yes. Mr. Klee,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Vert,
Yes.
Mrs. Pfaff-Dahl,
Barb, we can't hear you.
no, Mrs. Pfaff-Dahl,
Oh, Carol, we can't hear you either.
Yes.
She said
Mrs.
yes. Did you-
Anderson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
That was really quick. Congratulations. I'm glad that went through. Thank you
Yeah.
for being here, Mr. Wright. Thank you
Yes,
for being
thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you, and we look forward to progressing on this development, and and you guys seeing it. So thank you very much.
great.
Yep.
Best of luck.
Thanks.
Thank you. So we move on to action item D. Madam Clerk?
Yes, this is bringing back to fill the position of the administrative assistant in the clerk's department. It was turned down the last time. By not filling this position, the board is slashing the clerks and election staff by 50%. Both positions within the clerk's department are essential, the election specialist and the administrative assistant. This department cannot run efficiently with only one staff person. It is no different than a vacancy within the police department, accounting department, which have been the last two that we have filled within the clerical union, or any other departments which employ clerical support personnel. The administrative assistant also serves as secretary to the board of trustees. This does not just involve making copies of board packets. This involves as serving as secretary to each and every member of the board of trustees. On the heels of a year such as 2020 with a pandemic and elections with historical turnout, Mrs. Forrest has been in attendance each and every day, serving the residents of Flint Township. She is qualified and trained for the position, and she has more than earned being employed on a full-time capacity for the township. She is a true asset. I guess I just don't understand why there's been no issues in the past when we've had clerical replacements. The position is budgeted. The hiring was turned down after the board allocated $162,000 for software. And again, Mrs. Forrest comes in, she's QVF trained. She's been through the 2-day election specialist certification process through the Bureau of Elections. She knows how to work on all of our software, whether it's Excella or Pontum. She's even worked as an election chairperson for a precinct, which gives her a unique perspective when it comes to working the help desk on election day. And so I move that we employ Mrs. Jackie Forrest as the administrative assistant in the clerk's department effective January 26, 2021.
Is there a
That's
second to
my
the motion?
I will second it.
Any further discussion? And I just want to let you know, there was a suggestion made that we go into closed session and while we were hearing reports, I was texting our attorney, and we cannot do that. The law does not allow us to go into closed session for this specific issue. According to, what'd she say? 1 second. Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.268. So any discussion is here now. Anyone?
I know that Mrs. Forrest is very open with what was going on in her life at the time when she left in 2018. She was being called to something else, and all she knew was that she was being called to something, to do something else with her life. And she left, and it gave her and her husband the opportunity to fulfill their dream of owning a coffee shop. And they built their coffee shop. They spent 6 months working on it, and they opened it. And tragically, 2 months later, he passed away suddenly. And she had to sell the coffee shop, and she's been back at the township since January of 2020. Every day, not missed a day. Every day that we've been open, she's been there. And she's worked everything from cleaning. She's assisted with putting together road advisory agendas. She's helped in any way that she's been asked to help. She's a true asset. And I don't understand. We're not in we don't have a hiring freeze. This is a budgeted position. And to answer Mrs. Anderson's question earlier, because I said I would pull it up because I had it in front of me. In 2012, I don't know how many absentee ballots there were off the top of my head. I think there were 3,000. The election specialist worked 432.25 hours. The administrative assistant worked 280 hours of overtime. And going to 2016, which it's really not going to show, and that was for the entire year, by the way. For 2016, the election specialist worked 215.5 hours, and we did not have close to the number of absentees in 2016. I think we had 3,000, a little less than 4,000. Angie worked 91.25. She started in August. Jackie worked 22.25, and I worked 42.75 for 2016.
Are there any further questions or discussion?
I have a couple things.
Yes.
Okay, one thing is, you know, I understand Mr. Seward saying that we should go into closed session, and I wish we could too. But I still don't see where right now there's enough work for that position to be filled. I don't think that position needs to be filled at this time whatsoever. I see a lot of downtime in there. I am not alone in that. And I also have some other things that I'm just not comfortable with, so I will not be supporting this evening.
Any other further questions or discussion? Anyone?
I have one more comment. I've talked to 2 other townships, and they feel that for 40,000 residents that we have, that it's warranted that we need help in that election department. So people who are in a position of on the board, and they know what goes on in elections, and they said for our size township, we need the help. So I got a little outside comparison.
And you asked them for about elections, is that what you said, Deb?
Yes, and for the election department, yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to say one thing too, is that there are no elections right now. It's only when there's elections, but when there is no elections, there's not enough work for 2 people to be in that department.
Yep. Yes, there is. And there's always been enough work for 2 people in that department. I've worked the administrative assistant's job. It is, and you only break away from the administrative assistant's position when you have to go in and start working full-time in elections. And then you're juggling both. I've worked that job. I know how much work there is.
Mhm.
There's plenty of work, plus they're serving as board secretary. So it's 2 totally separate jobs. You have the election specialist and you have the administrative assistant. And at one time in that department, there were 2 people as an election specialist, and there was an administrative assistant, and there was a temporary worker. And we can see by the numbers, how well Jackie and Angie work together and have saved the township money by reducing the number of overtime hours.
You said there is an election?
Yes, there is. As far as we know, yes, the 9/11's been postponed. They are meeting, I believe on Wednesday, as to whether that will be on the agenda or not. But again, the position is more than just elections. It's also the administrative assistant. It's putting together the board packets. It's doing all the other work. It was all the other work that I assumed from March until mid-November. And it's too much for one person. I suffered from exhaustion twice during that time because I was doing 2 separate jobs plus running the election. I was serving as clerk. I was serving as my own administrative assistant. Even during the board meetings, it's more difficult for me to sit here and know that I have to write down everything that's going on, as opposed to having someone sit in and actually do it for me. It puts a lot of strain on me.
Well, there's
And-
help from other departments with the new software, because when people go to put their stuff in, it's not entirely the clerk's office doing it anymore. You have each department putting in their own agenda items through that software. So some of that works for the board packets.
But as you
It's
know,
been-
not everybody submits it that way.
No,
So
I
there
know.
is work to do. So, and then there are still board members who require a paper board packet.
Right.
So then that's put together. And we have plenty of other work in that department. Those girls do not sit around. If you see them sitting around, it's because they get the job done. And I think by the number of overtime hours that they worked on the election and the amount of time that I worked, and I don't receive overtime, that I came in and worked because I can do that. We cut the time. And like I said, Jackie and Angie together are a well-oiled machine. You don't find teamwork like that very often.
So,
And as far as other people applying for this job, I put it out there on 2 different listservs. We posted it for the union. There was only 2 people that applied, no one from the union.
so we have a motion and a second, and if there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call please on hiring Jackie Forrest to fill the position in the clerk's office, the administrative assistant position.
Mr. Klee,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Vert,
No,
Mrs. Pfaff-Dow,
Did you hear
See
her?
your mouth moving.
No.
Mrs. Anderson,
No.
Ms. Miller,
No.
Mrs. Funk, yes. I'll be bringing it back, so just for a warning, it'll come back on the next agenda.
I'd like to, now if I could, make a motion to not fill this position at this time.
Is there a second to that motion?
Anderson support.
Is there any discussion on not filling this position at this time?
Yes, there is. Yes, I'd like to say something. At the last meeting, Supervisor Miller, you gave a big talk about all of us getting along, working together for the next 4 years. Okay, this is a time when we all need to work together. And obviously, this is not against Mrs. Forrest in any way. This is against me personally. I don't know if it's the 4 of you want to see me fail, but you don't know who I am. Obviously, you haven't watched me for the last 4 years. Failure's not an option for me. So if this is your way of seeing me fail by slashing my department in half, then your pettiness is really showing here.
I think it's the board's option to determine the size of the staff. That's what the contract states. And I don't think it's personal, Kathy, as you are saying. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to say too, that it is nothing personal. We're in a budget crisis right here. If we
We're in
don't
a
start
budget
watching it,
crisis.
layoffs are going to be next. It's serious. And so that's
I
why
know it's serious.
misunderstanding.
$162,000 worth for software, serious. But we could do that. This is budgeted. This is not an additional position. This is budgeted. And now you're going to turn around and you're going to make it so that I can't bring it back. That's, how are we supposed to run elections then? Answer me that.
I think during election time, you have the ability to come to the board and ask for part-time help. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mrs. Vert,
Yes.
Mrs. Pfaff-Dahl, Mrs. Pfaff-Dahl,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Can you call on the next person?
Mrs. Funk, no, Mr. Klee,
No.
Ms. Campbell,
No,
Ms. Miller.
There's 3 no's and there's 3 yeses.
Yep.
What the motion again is to not fill the position?
Not to fill the position at this time.
At this
So
time.
I don't know what that means. If it's 2 weeks from now, can I bring it back? I don't know, but it was not to fill this position at this time.
I didn't say that.
That's what I wrote down.
I'll vote yes, not to fill it at this time.
All right, then I would like to make a motion that we take the budgeted wages that would have gone to this position and that we divide that in half and split it between the 2 people who will be stuck who will be doing this job, the majority of this job, because this is going to end up with grievances and everything else. And that salary is divided up just like is being done right now with the fire department, with the fire chief. And that the budgeted wages are divided between myself and Angie Tygeson, because we will be taking on the work.
Is there a second to the motion?
We would support that for movement of discussion.
And this would be for the time that it's not filled?
Yes.
Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mrs. Pfaff-Dahl, Mrs. Anderson,
No.
Ms. Miller,
No.
Mrs. Funk, yes. Mr. Klee,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Vert,
No.
motion's defeated.
We'll move on to action item E is the 2021 proposed Flint Township road improvement projects. You have before you the estimates from Craft Engineering, and the recommendation was unanimous from the Road Advisory Committee to repair these roads. Mike's been on the Zoom call with us. Do you have anything to add to this, Mike? We can't hear you. You're on mute. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I think Mr. Whiteside covered it very well, but I would just add that we looked at about 11 or 12 different projects this year. And as Mr. Whiteside said, we had 3 different sources of funding. We don't normally have the community development block grant funds every year, but this year we did. So with that additional money, we're actually able to come up with a combination of 7 projects that I think are well needed. All the roads have a PASER rating of either 2 or 3, and the lower that it is, the worse the road is. And I think that they're all good projects for the township. And is there any questions that anybody has? I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, we need a, we'll have a motion first. Can someone make a motion? I'll make the motion. I move that we approve the proposed 2021 Flint Township road improvement projects.
Anderson supports.
Is there any questions? Mike can answer any questions. I thank you for waiting all that time, Mike.
Oh, no, I enjoy taking or, listening to the meeting.
The estimates are thorough, and I think John Whiteside does a great job. He gave the report. He keeps really good track at the road advisory committee meeting. So if there are no questions, then Madam Clerk, roll call please on the motion to approve the 2021 proposed Flint Township road improvement projects.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Vert,
Yes.
Mrs. Pfaff-Dow,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Funk, no. Mr. Klee,
Yes.
motion carries.
Action item F is the City of Flint water franchise. You have the request in your board packet. It came from the Director of Sewer and Water. And in order for this person to be, to receive the City of Flint water, and yet it goes on our, we bill, and then we have the ability to put on the taxes if they don't pay their bill. Genesee County Water Department and Genesee County Drain Commission and City of Flint require an approved franchise agreement. So that's what this is. A motion is in order to approve it.
I move that we approve the franchise agreement.
Is there a second to the motion?
Anderson supports.
Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Klee,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Vert,
Yes.
Mrs. Pfaff-Dow,
Yes.
Mrs. Anderson,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Yes,
Mrs. Funk, yes, motion carries.
thank you. It's number 13, announcements. Do we have any announcements this evening?
Just that the next board meeting will be next Monday.
February 1st. And we shall see you there. One quick question. Chief Salter's gone. Did Brett leave? Mr. Beckley, when do we take delivery of the new fire truck?
As of now, it is scheduled to be completed February 10th. There should be a few of us going down there the week of the 15th to do a final inspection on it. Pending no major things that need to be corrected, we should hopefully be receiving it later on in February, probably towards the end of February. We should have it in our possession. It does have to go to the dealer on the way up to mount a few things, and then we should have it after that.
I'm sorry, I was looking for you too, Assistant Chief Raleigh. Will you be going with him? Will you be going down to pick it up?
Yes, ma'am. I'm planning on it.
Okay. Well, I know that this started before you got in position, and I just wanted to say thank you, Brett, for picking up the ball in the summertime and running with it. And Mark, thank you for dunking that ball and getting that truck up to us. It's very well needed. So thank you very much. And
welcome. Brett's been, he's been a great help with this truck, even since I, was promoted. So Brett's been right there helping out.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. It's been a long process, but it's going to be an awesome truck, and we can't wait to have it and have everybody over to take a look at it.
Thank you. So if there's no further business and without objection, we'll call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Because of you, I felt hopeless.
I know it was a joke, but it still hurt me.
Because of you, I felt wanted and not alone in this world.
Because you said hi to me on the first day of school, I felt included and I knew that I was going to be okay.
Sometimes the things we do or say can make others feel hurt,
Such a weirdo.
excluded, or isolated. Everything you say and do creates an impact.
How am I supposed to save the whole world?
You can't think about saving the world. You have to think about saving one person.
Because of you, someone's entire life can change. You don't have to be a superhero to have a positive impact.
Friends?
Friends.